Hello, good morning. I hope that you're all well and that you've had a good week. Later today at 4 p.m. Central Time, Teresa Vanetti, Kitten Stitcher or Shakespeare Peddler, we know her by both names, her online store is kitchenstitcher.com, is releasing this beautiful sampler. And this is an exclusive to Teresa, Kitten Stitcher, and it is a limited edition. This is such a sweet sampler. Look at that little girl, she's there like this. It is just so charming. The colours in this sampler, those blues and reds, they're just like sapphires and rubies. They're just beautiful, beautiful colours. The border, there is so much to love about this sampler. There really, really is. This sampler is entirely cross stitch over 2, so it can be stitched on Aida or linen. What really drew me into this sampler, besides, the charming scene, the beautiful border and the colours, was this was finished on my birthday, February the 20th. And it was stitched by Margaret Doyle in Bedford. If you're interested in stitching this sampler, you can only purchase this through Teresa at kittenstitcher.com. It goes live at 4 p.m. Central Time, and we are expecting the limited edition to go very quickly. There is no PDF for this. It will not be reprinted. This was something that Teresa commissioned me to do, and it is a special one-off. Now, we actually know a lot about Margaret. The original Margaret Doyle was sold by Whitney Antiques. So this went through Whitney. Margaret, her middle name was, just a second, I've opened this up and those two are the pages that Teresa read. So let me get to the history. Margaret Elizabeth Doyle was born in Belfast, Ireland, to Patrick Doyle, a fruit dealer, and his wife Martha. Now, Irish people emigrated to England for job opportunities in the Industrial Revolution. We find in 1851 Margaret is living in Marketplace, Belford, in the county of Northumberland. Now, if you are a Game of Thrones, no, not Game of Thrones, what am I on about? The Last Kingdom, Uhtred, right? Uhtred's home when he was a child that he was always trying to recapture was in Northumberland, and this is on the border with Scotland. So it was an area where lots of battles were fought between the English and the Scots. She was living in Belford again in 1861 in the census, but this time she's recorded as a servant. She married Charles Stewart Carnes, and they had 3 sons and 2 daughters born between 1866 and 1873. Their first son was born in Dublin, so the family at some stage must have gone back over to Ireland. And then in 1869 we find the family in Hutchison Town in Glasgow, and that was a very poor area. People lived in absolutely dreadful circumstances. They lived there for quite a long time, but by 1891 they'd moved to Byker in Newcastle upon Tyne. And if in this country most people know Byker's Grove, that was where she was living, and that was a very, very poor area as well. Margaret died in the January of 1917 in Newcastle upon Tyne. We think that Margaret's life was probably a very, very hard one. And when you look at this sort of really charming scene that she stitched as a child, that's quite sad that she lived a very hard life. And, you know, the accommodation she lived in was where very, very, very poor people lived, people who had nothing. We like to think that her little sampler may have hung on a wall in her room because they lived in rooms. They never had a house of their own. And, you know, maybe this sampler was the only splash of colour that was in Margaret's life. We don't know. Anyway, it's here available for us all to stitch. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about the technical side of the sampler. Okie dokie. So it uses 22 colours, and the sampler was stitched by Jodie Esler in New South Wales, Australia for us. And Jodie stitched this sampler with Soie 103. There is a conversion for Soie d'Alger and for DMC, and Teresa has kits for Soie 103, Soie d'Alger and DMC. You can get those off her website. As we said before, the sampler is stitched entirely, cross-stitch over 2 threads, so it can be stitched on Aida or linen. The original sampler was stitched on Penelope canvas that was equivalent to 20 count. We stitched this sampler on Eureka by Fox and Rabbit, and the design area is 136 stitches by 175. It's not a big sampler at all. It's just absolutely delightful. Now, Teresa is going to run a stitch along for this little sampler, and I would suggest that you pop over to her website, kittenstitcher.com, and find out more about this. This is on her website, but the purchase button will not appear till 4 p.m. Central Time. So, you know, be there ready to grab a copy of this booklet. It will not be reprinted again. Such a darling little sampler, and here is her little booklet. It's a special booklet specifically for Shakespeare's Peddler, and Teresa has written the foreword for the booklet, and then we have the history of the sampler, and then we have this beautiful, beautiful sampler to stitch. We wanted the booklet to be a special one, so we've popped a rip out or tear out or cut out label for the back of your sampler so that you can record what you stitch for prosperity. And you also have a thread legend that you can work separately with as you're stitching the sampler, because it's a pull out, and then there's the thread legend on the back as well. Enjoy. I can't wait to see this being stitched. Getting ready to go to the States. I talked about this project last week and that this was my travel project. Well, since my Flosstube last week, there has been so many emails coming about this sampler. It has generated so much interest. And I have been down so many rabbit holes with this sampler. And this sampler really, really, really called to me. And I think I might know why now. Researching Edith, Edith was born in London. Her father was born in Bristol. His father was born in Exeter, but further back, it was Truro and Falmouth, and that is in Cornwall. Falmouth is sort of our big town close to where we live. Her ancestor, when he lived in Falmouth, probably was a peddler, and he would have come out peddling his wares in this area. For all we know, her ancestor could have come to our little village peddling his wares. Now, I found a fantastic book that records the community in Cornwall, and Edith's family is mentioned, and it's not just well, yes, it does. It goes back through the paternal line, but as you go further back, it goes into, I'm not quite sure how you say this, her grandparents, both of their lines came back to Falmouth, and it's all written about in this book. And it's a huge book to get through, and I haven't read a fraction of it, but I have read about how the community came to settle in Cornwall, and what they did in Falmouth. I've yet to discover more about the county, but it's just absolutely amazing. It really, really is. I am learning so much, not only about Edith's ancestors, but about the community that settled in this area, something I never knew. Really, really interesting. Now, last week I talked about this border stitch on this sampler, and I said that I thought that it might have been a chevron stitch. Well, because it was my travel project, I wasn't meant to stitch on it, but I felt that I had to crack this stitch before I left. So I sat down, I can't remember what night it was in the week, and I knew this stitch did not appear in the proper stitch. So I got out my red book, and I couldn't find the stitch in my red book. So I went to Mary Thomas and I got out the latest edition I had. The stitch wasn't in there. So I got out an older edition of Mary Thomas. The stitch wasn't in there. So I got out my first edition of Mary Thomas. The stitch was not in there. So I thought, Elizabethan stitches. Let's go back even further. Stitch wasn't in there. So I thought, well, where do I go from here? So I have a Stitch Bible, which is a very, very modern book. And there is a lot of surface embroidery stitches in that book. So I went through that, couldn't find the stitch. But as I was going down the chapter headings, I saw the word composite stitches. The stitch wasn't in composite stitches, but it made me stop and think. And I thought, Nicola, don't look at this as one stitch. Look at this as two stitches and see if you can crack the stitch path. Well, the stitch going all around the border turns out to be herringbone stitch. And then, that was the first pass, herringbone stitch, but then the little girl went backwards, stitching 2 parallel rows of single running stitch. Now, if you look at the back of a row of herringbone stitches, you actually end up with 2 parallel rows of single running stitch. That's the stitch path on the back. So basically, what this girl did, she stitched herringbone both sides, back and front, to create this beautiful reversible stitch. So anyway, I took some photographs to show you, and you can see in these photographs where I've made a single pass so that you have got herringbone stitch, and then I'm working my way back, and you can see all of a sudden you've got this composite stitch. I've never seen it before. I have no idea what it's called. If you recognise this stitch, please will you email me or leave a message on this video. I am very, very curious because I have scoured all the books I have got for this stitch. Anyway, this was meant to be my travel project, and this was meant to be just a little test area to make sure that I had the stitch path down pat. Could I put my needle down? No, I could not. And this wasn't me stitching, this was Edith driving my needle because I literally could not put my needle down. So here is Edith's first sampler that she stitched when she was 7 years of age. And here's this pretty little stitch, this border stitch, all done. Very, very pretty. So I only have her second sampler to stitch whilst I am travelling. So I have got my little travel pouch, my stitching pads ready, and I have in here my little Queen's hoop, which is a 4-inch one. It fits perfectly into my case. Then I have my 1 spool of red, and the red I'm using for Edith is 681, and it is an amazing match to the original sampler. Then I have my fabric, which is Tabby Cat linen. The bottom sampler, although it is the largest one out of the two, the bottom one is actually stitched on a lower count fabric, and I'm going to be stitching it on the same count fabric. So that little bottom one is going to be 2.75 inches square. So it's not going to take up much of this linen. And then I have my chosen scissors. And of course, I have to have my red Kahanas for a red project. I shouldn't be taking these on the plane, but after you've used Kahana scissors, it's very, very hard to use anything else. And on these scissors, I have a beautiful fob from Minnie McBean's. Look at this, isn't this absolutely stunning? This is a special fob that has so many extras on, and this fob is exclusive to Hobby House for a very special project, which we will be announcing probably next weekend. So keep an eye open for that. Sorry about that. Somebody knocked on the window. One of our holiday makers in the cottages wanted me. We were talking about this fob. It's so beautiful. Now, there is a story about my red Kahana scissors this week. When I went to pack my case, do you think I could find my red scissors? No, I could not. So the first place I always check for scissors is down the side of the chair where I've been stitching. They weren't there. Well, I had the house apart for these scissors. And in the end, I thought, I must have thrown them out. You know, they're just gone. And I looked on Kahana's website and they had red scissors in stock. So I bought another pair. And then that night when Ray came home from golf and I was telling him about all my trouble about, I'd lost my scissors, it suddenly came to me where they were. And what it was, I'd been out walking with the dogs, had an idea. It was just a little bonus for the workshop at Hobby House. So when I came home, I rushed in. I didn't even take my walking boots off. I grabbed my scissors, I grabbed something else, and I spent the evening putting something a little extra together for the workshop. And I think that what happened, when I finished, I put the scissors in the pocket of my walking gilet. That's where I found them. So I have another pair of red scissors coming. But you know, hey ho, a girl can't have too many scissors, and especially red scissors. Talking of Kahana, these scissors are not the only cutting implements that Kahana do. They do have large dressmaking scissors as well, with these beautiful lacquer handles. I haven't got a pair of those, but it's on my bucket list to buy some. But what I do have is some snips, and these are great. They come with a beautiful leather sheath to protect the blades, and the handles are, they have these silk braids wrapped around them, and they're so pretty. That's a pink and a very delicate silvery grey and a white strapped around, and then the braid comes into this little button and you have this little sort of like almost like a tassel at the end. These sit so nicely in the hand. Again, Kahana have thought about not only how their product looks, but how their product feels in the hand. And I don't know if you've ever used snips. I use these a lot when I am dressmaking or when I am quilting. These are so easy just to snip off all the loose threads. If you don't want to travel with scissors, these are also a great addition because the blades are very short, and when you fly out of the UK, your blades have to be under 6 centimetres, which I think that, oh actually I don't know if I can ask Siri when I'm recording. Hey Siri. No, Siri doesn't answer. I'll Google it and I'll pop it into the video what 6 centimetres is in inches. These are great, and you know, a lovely addition to your needlework tools. The blades are very, very short, and again you can get right down to the base with these snips. I love them. I'm so enamoured with the Cohana products. They all look so beautiful in my sewing cases. I love this, really do. This is up in my sewing studio in my work bag, and it's been very, very handy. I've used it a lot when I've been using my sewing machine. It's a great one for snipping the ends off on that as well. Go and have a look at the Kahana website and explore their products. They really do have some very, very beautiful things. I've got a bucket list of products. I've got lots and lots of them, but slowly I'm building up my collection. I've got some of my Kahana scissors here displayed. This is beautiful. This is something that I had specially made for me. I'm yet to embroider my bands to go around my spools, but I intend to do that once I've caught up with my work. I've got a lot of things on at the moment, very busy writing some booklets. We've got a lot coming up. This week I showed some beautiful pin dishes that I've had made. Now all of these have gone, but I will be having more of these. They're made, these particular ones are made out of yew, and yew is a beautiful wood. There's so much movement and colour in this, and these little dishes, they're magnetised, so you can see they hold your products in. We got our little mouse, and this is Dorothea. This is the mother mouse. She's very, very cute. And Dorothea has a little spot on her head on this one. These are really useful to have by the side of you while you're working. You can put pins, you can put needles, you can put spools, you can put scissors, but anything that's metal will adhere to the magnet. Really, really pretty. As I said, these just went very, very quickly, but I will have more wood products when I come back from the States in 2 weeks, and I will show them on social media. But if you are interested, you do need to act quickly, because these are never going to be produced in mass numbers. These are all going to be, you know, just a few every now and again. Beautiful, beautiful products. Okay, is there anything else? All I've got to do now is go and unpack, well, no, not unpack, take half of the things out of that suitcase, and then I'm going to pop my suitcase in the car, so it'll all be done. And in the morning, I've got to get up very early, and I can just jump in the car and drive up to London. It's a 6-hour drive. It's a long, long drive. I'm just so glad that, you know, you've got the radio and you can sort of sing along to songs. It helps pass the time. Journeys are always much shorter when you have company, somebody to talk to. When you're driving by yourself, it's always a long trip. Okay, gosh, I think that's it today. Whilst I'm in the States, I hope to do some videos, and I will certainly post lots of photographs. I'm so excited, it's finally come. Okay, so until the next time, stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.